welcome back. Yes, indeed. So we'll be discussing this announcement that was made by the CBN lifting Forex restriction, which was placed on importation of 43 items, I think sometime in 2015, June, thereabouts. So we've got two gentlemen joining us to weigh in on the matter. Well, Aide, Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. Last time he was there, he wasn't that one. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, we also do have Paul Alaje, who is the Chief Economist, SPM Professionals. Good morning, Mr. Alaje. Good to see you. I hope you're having your good rest.
Good morning.
Even though we had to drag you out this morning somehow.
Good morning, and thank you so very much for having me.
Okay, so Mr. Alaje, let me start with you. You know, several people will be looking to this, wondering how do they interpret it? What do they make of this? What does it mean for their businesses? You know, is it part of the policy flip-flop? So they, of course, some will be a little confused about some of these things. So you've seen all of these things and, of course, internalized it time and again. Talk to us about this. So what is it with this lifting of importation of restriction? I beg your pardon. This decision that was taken by the CBN anyways on Friday.
Okay, so the decision taken by the central bank is to the effect that 43 items that were previously banned from accessing FX from the central bank can now do so. What are these items? It includes cement, rice, iron steel, toothpick, and many other items that central bank in 2015, with the support of the, the Ministry of Finance and the Continuity Minister of the Economy, they agreed that these items should not necessarily have access to FX. Yes, they can be imported, but they need to foot their FX from another source. That was the reason why this was initiated. And it also gave that support to local, in a way, it will serve as means of providing support to local producers who may want to go into rice production because it is expected that importation will be relatively more expensive if they cannot get FX at official window. When that policy was made, several international organizations, including IMF, World Bank, and World Trade Organization, have since had their concerns. And I think their recent concern was that those 43 items may be fueling high demand in the parallel markets. And I think, to my mind, is one of the reasons why the central bank felt it could be important to allow all these items, including importation of toothpick, importation of rice, importation of a number of other things, may now come to the official window, either on the FMBQ platform or whatever platform government may think is important for them to have their transaction. So this is exactly what the matter is. But you know, when we make economic decisions, we must be sure, decide what would be the implication. It's not just to make the policy that matters. The implication of this policy is what we need to really consider. So what does it mean when we say that we want to reduce the backlog? Because central bank has promised it's going to reduce the backlog of those that have been wanting to get FX. So what's the implication? I look at what we have in our foreign reserve. I think it's highly insufficient. And perhaps this is the reason, although this is not in public domain, why government says it wants to have more loans in recent time. And when you check the loan government have been talking about, their foreign loans, they have implication. When government collect foreign loans, they are going to have the money go directly into our foreign reserve and provide the naira equivalent. So the foreign reserve is expected to grow. To some organization reporting, some have reported $400 million, some have reported $1.5 million, whichever be the case. When this money comes, it goes to the foreign reserve. So you see some boost in our foreign reserve so that government can support. But what is this downside to these policy? The downside, unfortunately, is going to be really very tremendous on the economy. One is that you are going to fuel the demand side. The real problem we have with FX today has nothing to do with demand. It has everything to do with supply. Yes, I understand we have some Nigerians who don't mean well for the country, who continue to speculate against the currency, and they have their own argument. The argument is that we continue to work, but the value of our money may reduce per time, partly because of government policy, partly because Naira gets weakened, partly because of, you see Nigerians are now opt for going to parallel markets to buy FX to keep their money and anytime they need the money, they go back. This is what is happening in Nigeria today. So if we now say that the solution to this is to allow 43 items to now come, whether it's a parallel market or it's an official window, if you look at the implication for industry, then it's going to have negative impact on industry, because where I am now, to borrow money, you only need to pay 3 to 4%, not per month, per annum. How can a Nigerian business person compete with someone in this part of the world if he collects loan at 3% to 4% without, he may not necessarily need to bring CFO as is always requested in Nigeria. So how will such business compete with Nigeria, where you need to get 30% of the same, and you want to do the same business? So it is easier for someone abroad to produce and come to Nigeria, even when we think that we're going to charge them some import duties and so on and so forth. They will still be at competitive edge, when you compare them to Nigeria. So the downside of these policies is that it's going to fuel demand. The implication is that Naira may be worse off. In the short run, you see speculators who are not really sure of what the decision may be. You might see some seizure or some delay, or you can see the figure go flat. But when people know that we have not really solved the supply side problem, then you might see exchange rate worse off. In the medium term, even in the short term, you might see it worse off. So what we need to do this moment today is to solve our supply side problem. It is the real issue. And that is what I think we need to do as a matter of urgency.
While I cannot fault your conclusions on that, you've also given an insight into what you think could be happening with our Forex crisis problems. Well, one of the simple things we're told about money when, children or students are taught about money is that it's a store of value. Currency is supposed to be a store of value. So if Nigerians are not having confidence in their naira to be able to store the value that they have earned, that is a major problem. But let me take you up on the 43 items, because part of what we were told at the time when the CBN restricted Forex access to these items was that a lot of them could be locally produced, and that there were already, companies around which were trying in that regard to produce some of these things. And in any case, it was ridiculous. I mean, how can a country not be able to produce toothpicks, for instance, with all the bamboo that we have in our West African region? So for you, what exactly has been the problem? Because initially, according to to our data analyst yesterday, the CBN did come out to say that Forex restriction was having the desired effect on production. Now, many years down the line, we're being told that it looks like opposite has been the case. So for you, if you are aware of what is happening, if production really hasn't taken place on these 43 items which were restricted, what do you think could be responsible for it?
Thank you once again. The real challenge we have here is that we want to eat our cake and have it. We want to sandwich growth and development. We believe that we can jump from a phase of primary to secondary. We don't want to go through the important phase that the rest of the world have passed through. When you look at our GDP components, you see agriculture. Then when it comes to agriculture, it's been flat over the years. It's maintained the same position over the years. Then you see service. Service has been growing steadily. If service is growing and agriculture is flat, then the third component must suffer it. What is the third component? Production and manufacturing. Nigeria has refused to produce. And for most countries, as they are growing in population, it is better for their production and manufacturing component to grow with them. In the case of Nigeria, that is not the case. As our population is growing, our production and manufacturing is falling. What does that mean? Somebody must produce for us. And guess what? Who produces for you will be your master. Around the world, that is why we depend on the rest of the world. And the way Economist captures it, for those
Oh, sadly, we've lost his audio there. Well, Mr.
I think I muted it. Maybe we'll check him out.
Okay, well, Mr. Aide, if you can hear us, we'll have to double-check your audio, or just double-check to be sure that you're not muted.
Hello?
Okay, yes, we lost you. You're talking about production and how production has been deepened, and people will be our masters if our production doesn't go up.
Yes, so when you look at country's population, the population of Nigeria is between 2.6 to 3%. But when you see the decline in our production, manufacturing, and processes is declining. So central bank at that time came with a policy to say, let us support local manufacturer. Let's bring out several policies, which includes if you employ up to 100 employees, central bank will give you some special provision. Today, I see those policies as being cancelled. Why? Because the components of production, which only government is responsible for, yes, government may partner with private sector, is not happening. And what is that? Government must guarantee adequate energy, power supply for production to happen. I am not saying government must own energy 100%, but when you look at the energy or electricity issues in Nigeria, we have generation, we have transmission, and we also have distribution. We have seen government privatize partly generation, privatize partly distribution, but what happens to transmission today? I was on your show with you there, and we all looked at how Nigeria transmission company packed up in 2022 12 times. A dozen times it packed up. This year alone, it has packed up 5 times. And we are talking of developers. You see, if you don't produce, if you don't manufacture, and you don't process, the truth is that such country, any country that finds itself in such position, will remain crude, will remain beneath. And the good news is that Nigeria has a new president, and I see that this president needs to depart from the way of the previous president. And what is the way the president must embrace? The way of manufacturing, the way of processing, and this is what all the major ministers that has to do with the economy must have conversation about. We cannot continue to postpone the evil day. All the countries in the world we want to go, one of the things that we consider unconsciously in our mind is how regular is electricity, how affordable is energy. If we don't solve this problem, I am sorry, it's going to be a big challenge. This is the challenge why all of those things central bank mentioned in 2015 and 2016 and 17 mentioned that they started to see the result because those organizations could use diesel to produce. Today, 2021 December, the cost of diesel was approximately 290 naira. Today in Abuja, the cost of diesel is between 950 to 1,100. Now, if you have done a business plan and you have collected facility at 26 to 30% per annum, that is if it's in a commercial bank. In a microfinance bank, between 40% to 72% in Nigeria. How do you intend to compete? And you don't want to produce, there are not enough energy. Again, you have to do with human resources whose intention, some of the time, not all the time, some of the time is how they said, if you work with people, you must make something for yourself by the side. And I'm not saying doing part-time job, but even pilfering in an organization, and we see this a lot in manufacturing sector. So the truth is, Nigerian government, we need to rethink production. We need to rethink manufacturing. If we don't do it, there is no future for us. I give you an example. Go to Germany. What is the focus? It's not farms, it's manufacturing, it's technology. Go to America. What is the concern? What is the direction of government? It's also manufacturing technology. If you go to Russia, Russia is at war today, but look at what is happening to Russia economy. In spite of all the restriction coming from America, it is still technology and manufacturing. Brazil, technology and manufacturing. Nigeria, the largest economy in another continent called Africa. Our focus remains on agriculture, and we hope that our banks will suddenly take us out of the wood by the time the banks are declaring billions. But you need to check what the banks declared during COVID. They all have issues. Anytime there is economic quagmire induced by oil gods around the world, all Nigerian banks will fall sick. Therefore, our banking system is not really premised on what they should be. Their premise should be on SMEs and manufacturing. But for most of the Nigerian banks, it's on crude oil and some few multinationals. And that is why the strength of them is not as. So I'm not saying any bank is at risk of going down. No, that's not what I mean. But I'm saying that the banks need to be premised on a strong manufacturing sector. That is the backbone of our economy. That is the future of our country. If we don't do it, I'm sorry, we may not get to that paradise we are all hoping to see someday.
Well, Mr. Audu, you have heard it's a very troubling but a very candid picture of what it is that we're currently going through. The picture is not pretty, where citizens do not have confidence in their country's currency. where it is difficult to produce or manufacture anything, and manufacturers, what did the Guardian say this morning? Manufacturers are, coming up with policies to protect whatever it is that they're doing, and, they're not scaling up. They know that right now, if they continue like this, they could be in trouble in that particular sector. For you, I do not know what you make of this CBN Forex market intervention. Do you really think that this could be a solution to, helping the Naira, or do you think that right now we're chasing shadows?
Good morning. I think it's the solution, or at least one of them. And I mean, if you look at the monetary policies and fiscal policies, he did say, I agree with all of the things he said. And but the challenge we currently have in production, isn't just on monetary policy, isn't just what have been brought about by these policies. He rightly said, production, energy is important, and we can't say that enough. And talked about, what's happening in transmission and the impact it has. And I think what he was trying to say about the commercial bank, which I totally agree, is the fact that they don't make enough impact in our economy, especially in the production sector, the small and medium enterprises. And I mean, if 2015, when this policy was introduced, there was a reason, basically to allow local manufacturers of these, products be able to come up and, gain footing and stand in the sector. But 8 years later, like you would expect, assessment of what has happened from, this restriction. And instead of getting the desired result of, either lowering our, or improving the strength of the Naira, we see is weakening. Then the disparity between the official rate and the parallel market, good reason as at the time it was done. There are a lot of other issues that could have been responsible for why we haven't gotten the desired result, which the CBN is actually looking at as we speak. I mean, there's a lot of, the new guys just took their offices and they are assessing all of the projects, all of the processes, all of the policies, and see where they can make the changes. However, these items that have been excluded from assessing Forex were not banned from imports, meaning someone will import them. That someone will have to go to somewhere else to source the market. So if who says you can't get Forex from CBN at a lower rate and go to the market to sell it, where these people get it?
What's it happening?
No, I mean, round tripping, you can't write it off. You can't write that off. I might not have the data to show, but we know this is one of the reasons. I mean, what fuels what feeds the parallel market? There's shortage in supply. The CBN is working on a lot to boost that, but if you deliberately allow a player, it seems unfair that a segment of the economy, which is not illegal, is not allowed access to, the formal window where they can access Forex. What that does is you push them and you create a permanent segment. And what this does is, by the time they bring in this product, because they get to get this Forex at high rate, it increases the price of the product coming into the country. There are a lot of items we can look at.
Do you think that it ought to have the items should have been restricted in totality from importation? Do you think that is something that we should pursue to force production of those things here?
I do not think so, and this is because we need to be competitive. We shouldn't have our productive sector pampered. I mean, there are areas we can strengthen them. There are interventions that the government, the CBN, can do to help them more competitive. But I mean, we know what it is that the moment a particular sector is pampered. Let's look at 8 years analysis of what has happened when these items were taken off the list. Okay. How well have they performed?
Are we going to break?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll be answering that question when we come back from this break. Please stay with us.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Well, you were making a point the other time before we went on break, essay.
All right. So, like I was saying, the essence of this is to ensure that, I mean, we have a standard market. I mean, the disparity between the formal window and the parallel market needs to be closed up, and we need to have a place where the prices of Forex is strictly determined by the what's it called, the principle of by the principle of willing buyer, willing seller, subjected to the the forces of demand and supply in the market. For as long as we keep pushing importers of this to, I mean, we are encouraging of course the CBN will be encouraging the existence of parallel market. If the very aim of what they are trying to do is to ensure we have a unified Forex market status, pushing people to a market which you don't want to exist only shows that you're not interested in achieving what you set out to achieve in the first place.
Okay.
So while we agree that there's insufficient in terms of availability of Forex, foreign exchange for these manufacturers of these products, the CBN has talked about boosting that, ways to boost that in their own way. But we must not deliberately create a situation where we encourage legitimate importers of certain products that are not banned to go sourcing funds everywhere. Let's know what our problems are. We have insufficient supply of Forex, and let's deal with it. But for as long as you're solving a problem internally and you're creating you're increasing the problem outside, we will never get anything done.
Okay. Well, Mr. Laje, let me come to you, briefly on that. I mean, you've listened to Mr. Audu speak there, but the statement from the CBN puts it this way. How does this benefit local production in the Q&A they put out? Local production will benefit from cheaper imported inputs, and consumers will benefit from cheaper retail products. The policy is suitable for a unified Forex market and positive as well for inflation. Do you agree?
Okay, so let me take example of toothpick. What do I need to import for toothpick, for me to make toothpick? Maybe the equipment. If I must produce, I'm not going to import energy. It's already available to me here. And if I'm going to use diesel, already it's not part of the things that is banned. So I don't completely agree with that. For steel, for metal steel, maybe we can do that. But what happens to the investment of those that are already in Nigeria? How will they survive for those that have already invested heavily in that market? The challenge I have with the policy is that the central bank and perhaps the immigration did not specify that is only raw material you can bring in. I give you an example of what President Buhari administration really trended alongside the central bank under Governor Emefiele. What they mentioned is that Nigeria has, in fact, reached rice production. They've reached sufficiency in rice production. So if you are saying that we are opening up to the markets, are we saying that we want people to bring in paddy? Because what is fueling high price in rice today is high cost of paddy. Paddy rice is the raw material miller used to mill and that made available in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, most of these paddy rice were coming into Nigeria until the coup happened in the neighboring Niger Republic. When the coup happened in the neighboring Niger Republic, Nigeria and Niger have their concerns, of course, diplomatic issues, and you see scarcity. Again, we have seen that it also happened at a time where it was not harvest season. Even at this harvest season, the price is far higher than what it was.
Well, Mr. Laje, just a second. I just wanted you to speak directly to that, frequently asked question that the CBN put out. They said that local production will benefit from cheaper imported inputs and consumers will benefit from cheaper retail products. Do you agree that that will happen?
I don't agree that will happen. Because when you say we are importing we are having importation of lower value, maybe lower exchange rate, I really don't agree that will happen.
Okay.
Because when you say you have opened up, no, this is the challenge. When you say you have opened up for people to bring, you cannot stop people who are bringing finished products into Nigeria. You cannot stop them.
Okay.
So here is the challenge. When people were using the parallel market to fund, it became relatively more competitive for local producers. So it's a huge challenge. And it's not just in the area of iron, steel, toothpick, and so on and so forth. There are other products which include tomato.
More than 43 items, actually, including tomato paste, just as you said. But there is another question that I want to put to you very quickly, and I'd like you to answer them as shortly as you can. Another one of those, a follow-up to how does this benefit local production from the CBN is, it is expected that employment generation will be boosted as closed factories will reopen, and price stability will benefit the economy as well as the standards of living in general. Do you see that happening?
Okay, so this is a sufficient condition in economics. It is based on the first premise that if importer brings in a cheaper rate, then this will happen. So if the first did not happen, if the first is not happening, then you can't see the second happening. Okay. So my position will be remain because I'm not sure the first will happen. Therefore, I don't think the second will happen.
Now, Mr. Aide, one last one from me to you. Do you think Nigeria's economy, as it currently is positioned to promote production, which you and a number of other economists have been championing? Do you think our economy right now is positioned or engineered for production? If it is, tell us what you think. If it is not, what do we need to do to make Nigeria's economy a producing and not just a consuming one?
Okay, as we speak, Nigeria economy is not positioned to promote production. And what are the things, why is Nigeria economy not positioned? Because the ingredients and fundamental for production, they are not in place as we speak today. What must we do to make Nigeria's economy to be focused on production, to be focused on manufacturing? There are quite a number of them. There are a lot of them. But I will mention a few ones. And of course, I've mentioned the issue of power, energy, diesel, and so on and so forth. One thing we need to do very quickly is to make sure we have our local refinery working, which is very important. Nigerian government, we need to speak with Nigerian banks. The interest rate that is currently being charged is absurd, it's not realistic, it's not going to take us anywhere. So I don't know how government will partner with the central bank in this regard. We partner with commercial banks. It will be a good place for us to see a major review in interest rate. Central bank will achieve more employment goals if rates, and I talk about NPR, I also talk about lending rate by the banks. If the rates are better, then you are going to see more expansion in employment market. Unlike when you say you bring some commodity that have potential of stimulating demand side, the central bank will be in more troubles in the coming period. And it's a matter of time. In the next 2 to 3 months, let's have this conversation again and look at what the exchange rate is saying. At both official window and parallel market, have we had improvement or not? I believe in the next 90 days to 100 days, we can review this conversation. And this is what, of course, we have had time and again. So that said, the other one is, why are we having issues with production and manufacturing know-how? I believe we have a lot of Nigeria that have capacity in terms of production, in terms of helping Nigeria to come to the other side, in terms of becoming a producing nation. But we also need to know how many Nigerians actually have the knowledge in terms of production. So we need to revive our technical schools. Emphasis on education today is on university first, then polytechnic. So whatever is happening to teachers or whatever is happening to those with technical school knowledge is not what Nigeria promotes. So we must change. China did not promote. It's very rare for you to hear about Chinese university, but you hear about how technically Chinese people are and Indians. But that is not the case for Nigeria. We must understand we have the largest population in Africa today, and by 2050, we will become the third largest economy. We are not preparing that third largest population in the world. So we need to promote technical education. And I say this to those in Ministry of Education. The earlier we revive those technical schools from states to local government and also to federal government, the better for us. So if you have your energy correctly, you have your bank financing, you have your people, which is important, then government can promote policy. And I tell you one of the policies I think President Tinubu will promote. We all use mobile phone. Can we say that government wants to partner with a mobile phone company? I see a lot of them in Nigeria, but one that will say, I want to assemble all my phones in Nigeria and see how jobs will be created. Or television. Many people are watching us in their homes today. perhaps most of the TV we are using in Nigeria today are imported. Can President Bola Ahmed Tinubu say that we want to partner with any of these companies that we assemble, starting with assembly in Nigeria, and see how our brother from Sokoto to Owerri, from Lagos to Maiduguri to Calabar, division by themselves in a matter of years. This is how countries become become manufacturers. Our country.
All right, Mr. Aide, we lost you there, but you made very interesting points. And as you wind down now, Mr. Aide, listen to him there. It's pretty clear what, if we do some of those things there, how we'll, of course, move forward. And then he also just suggests that, yes, the president did declare a state of emergency on food security some time ago, but how we're fed with that remains to be seen. Shouldn't he then? Because you spoke about prices. This would be good for unifying the Forex market on the one hand, and the prices may become cheaper. I'm not sure how that is going to work, because if they were getting the Forex at what, 440 something, 44 something or thereabout, and then you have to push them to the parallel market where it's now over 700, isn't that going to reflect on their goods and services? Of course it will. And then moving forward now, what would do you have an idea what to expect from the president in terms of, shouldn't we be talking about declaring a state of emergency on production and then put requisite plans in place? Take us there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he talked about a whole lot of that during the campaign, and all of the policies so far have shown that that's where we are headed. And
anything on power? We haven't heard anything yet.
No, of course. One of the first things he did was the electricity bill. Yeah, that's the most important part. You see,
just a bill.
Yes, the programs that will support the policies will be out. Then the projects that will bring this to bear, where it actually have this impact that it ought to have in our manufacturing, in our production, even in the general standard of living of the people, will come in there. But one of the things affecting inflation right now isn't just about the price, the high cost of bringing this thing. Is the fact that the supply it's affected. I mean,
because we're not producing.
Good. So while the pressure is mounting on the ordinary consumer, one way to look at it is to ensure that there is competition in the market.
All right.
So that if the production side has different angles, there are different angles to that. But in terms of the impact on the ordinary citizen, the price of this product, the availability of, and the quality of, if we don't expose our local manufacturing and local production to international quality competition, we end up, if they can produce enough, then good quality enough, then we can start thinking of exporting them, then start earning Forex.
Well, you know what they say, you can't put something on nothing. We're waiting to see what will the government do about, number one, production. What will they do about power, for instance? These are steps that people need to see. What will they do about interest rates? As he said, 20-something% interest rate, how will companies survive? Inflation figures, double digits, how will they cope? So it's a job of work, and we're waiting to see the steps that they will take in that regard to get us where we need to be. We have to thank you for coming on, Aliyu Audu, Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs. We also need to thank Mr. Paul Alaje, who is an economist and also the Chief Economist for SBN Professionals. Thank you both for very interesting perspectives here this morning.
Thank you so very much for having me.
So we will be back in a moment, and we'll be going over from Lagos. Don't go away.